My first parish that I was assigned to was a rather large parish. It was 1,500 families with the kindergarten through 8th grade school. And there was a lot of people in the Chicagoland area that had gone through that parish. And one particular young man who I knew that was there had started working in New York City as a trader and for a stockbroking company. And he was in the towers when the tower was struck, and he made it out, and he went down to a payphone on the street. And who was his first call? Was the head priest of the parish that he was at. And he said, "Father, light a candle for me, I just made it out." And then, but that always stuck in my head is all the different stories that we hear about September 11th and all the traumas and tragedies, even from the young man who I mentioned that we had the funeral for at the second parish I was at. To escape and then call the church and say, "Light a candle for me and tell my family I'm okay." And the priest became the conduit between tragedy, comfort, peace, a solid voice that this young man had grown up to hear his entire life, and thought for the first phone call, and one of the few phone calls after that, because the phones went down very shortly after that, to call his parish priest and say, "I'm okay, tell my family I'm okay, and light a candle for me." I think it's a very important thing to remember that in times of tragedy, in times of loss, and times of hurt, that the church is always here and is always should be your first call in prayer, whether it's your first call on the telephone or whether it's your first call in prayer. It should be the place where we find hope, where we find peace, where we find comfort and refuge from all the things that are going on around us. So keep that in mind and keep all those families in your prayers that suffered loss. And I know that it was a day that for those who were old enough to experience it, it was a day that everyone remembers very clearly where you were, what you were doing, and what was happening, and the uncertainty of life at that moment. But it's a reminder to us that life is uncertain in every moment, and it's never to be taken for granted. So be careful and be prayerful. And every step that you take, everything that you do in your life, to always remember to approach it prayerfully and carefully, to ask for the intercessions of the saints, the protection of the angels, the ushering and the embrace of the Virgin Mary, and the overall grace of Christ to come upon us, to strengthen us through all the tragedies and sorrows and difficulties in life, so that as we walk through, as the Psalm says, the valley of the shadow of death, that we fear no evil, because God is with us. So, and one of my favorite hymns, I have several favorite hymns in the church, but is the hymn of Tis Theos that we sing during Easter. Who is so great a God as our God? You are the God who works wonders alone. And when you think of that and think of the prayers that we reach out to God and ask Him to help us, ask Him in good times and in bad times. And remember especially to thank Him in the good times, because that's when many of the fathers of the church write and they say they prayed for bad times. No one prays for bad times in here, unless you're on a different channel, right? Everybody's praying for good times. They're praying for their job to work out. They're praying for prosperity in their lives. They're praying for health. But some of the fathers of the church say, "Give me something wrong so that I don't become complacent in my gratitude for the things that are good." So remember to be thankful for the things that are good in your life.